Hi, I'm Eileen Roche, and welcome to this episode of Between Friends. I'm excited today. I got a great guest and a hot topic, which is, quilting with your embroidery machine. The easiest way to quilt without a long arm. Not that I'm against long arms, but they take up a lot of space and they're a pretty high ticket item, right? And if you already have an embroidery machine, then you have the ticket to finish a quilt completely, because you can use your embroidery machine. Before we get started, let's just say hello to some folks who have joined us. Laura Park, she was the first one here today up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Kathy Blah in Michigan. And here's my sister-in-law, Kathy Colvin, up in Minnesota, where it's sunny and bright. And I think they got a little snow this week. Nice to have you here. Dawn is in O'Fallon, Missouri. I think I've been there. Joan Shriver. Chris Kavanaugh, oh my goodness, so many of you. But I really want to give a shout out to Linda Johnston. She said, a cup of tea, a warm scone, and between friends, what could be better? What a lovely comment. Thank you, Linda. That's really quite the compliment. I love a nice cup of hot tea, and I don't mind a warm scone now and then. So really great to hear you enjoying this hour. And we're going to have a blast because I'm going to be quilting a queen size quilt, and I'm going to take you through the whole process, even making the quilt. So if some of you wonder, can you really do a pieced quilt, or is it just like a whole cloth quilt that you see when we are demoing the Weightless Quilter? No, we can do the whole thing. So you're going to see that. But before we go ahead and get started on that topic, I'd like to bring in my guest, who is Sue Brown from OML Embroidery, and she's here for a specific reason. So come on in, Sue.
Hello, Eileen. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. It's just great to have you here. How you doing?
Thank you. I am fantastic. The OML gang, we're having a ton of fun learning some new things, and this is our favorite time of the month. Looking forward to the project. Everyone is really excited about it.
Yeah, so those of you who are new, every last Thursday of the month, I give away a free embroidery project. It has an embroidery design on it. And then 2 days later, Sue does a sew along on YouTube on her channel using that design. So it's, kind of, win-win, right? Thursday and Saturday.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, especially if it's complicated. Then we go through all the questions and how to complete it. And I love seeing what people do with your projects.
Yeah, we do too, for sure. And, at the end of the program, we'll show you a what we call the reel, and it's everyone else's interpretations of the free design that we give every week or the project. So I'm excited to share that. We have some really nice ones to share for sure. Let's see. I want to, there's Larry Albrook. Happy Easter, she says, and same to you. Happy Easter to everyone who's celebrating that this weekend. Okay, so, Sue, recently I had the opportunity to make a queen size quilt. Now, if you're like me, it isn't something you do all the time, right? Because there has to be a use for a queen size quilt. It's not a small mug rug like you make all the time, right?
Mug rug queen over here, yes.
Yeah. Show me your latest.
Okay. I want to be on the beach.
Oh, flip-flops. Gotta love that.
Flip-flops on the beach. That's what it's called. So yeah, Mug Rug Queen. We have Mug Rug Monday, and we do a new mug rug every Monday.
It's
a lot of fun. And yes, it is a lot faster than making a quilt.
It is. But, I wanted to shout out to Sharon Jones. She says she just finished a 55 by 57 pieced quilt just 5 minutes ago in her 8 by 8 hoop, snap hoop monster, and doing edge to edge. It's so much fun and wonderful, wonderful therapy. It is wonderful therapy, right?
Creating and seeing all the colors come together is amazing. And quilting it yourself is also awesome because you get to decide all of it. And you don't have to learn a long arm or pay for a long arm or pay someone else to use it. Do it yourself.
And you really get such a feeling of accomplishment when it's complete. I mean, it
absolutely.
It just kind of lifts your, floats all boats, right? It's really cool. So
definitely.
So how about if I share the quilt that I made, okay? And I'm going to take you through the whole process. So here we go. This is the pattern, and it's called First Gift, and it's by Lo and Behold Stitchery. It has just 2 blocks. This is block A, and then block B is a snowball. But, there's 5 fabrics there, and they all have to be cut. And so I have an AccuQuilt machine, and I love it, so I use that. And then it's time to add one of those colorful 2.5-inch squares to the corner of the big 8-inch block, right? And so I chain pieced. I did all the dark blues first. Well, truth be told, there's 90 blocks of the snowball that I had to do. So I would work in like stacks of 15. I would take, 15 white blocks, 15 of the square, and add the, Sue, you're friendly.
Sorry.
That's okay. Sue doesn't have anybody there to handle her dogs. So we're just going to deal with it now and then. That's all right. So once I have those 4 corners on my snowball, I have to trim away that excess fabric at the corner. And I used a Lazy Susan cutting mat, which was ideal. And I'm just trimming 1/4 inch beyond the seam. And then, you can keep those small triangles or scrap them. Now, we have to press all that open, right? Move over to the ironing board and open up each of those corners and flatten it out. And there's my snowball block. But I need 90 of them. And then I'm going to need 90 of the other blocks. So here you can see the stack of 90. And here's the pieces, the units that we make and then piece them together to make block A. So Retha Ranke says she looks like she could do block A. Oh, you could do both. Absolutely. You sure could. Easy peasy. And then here's the finished of the other block. So, when you stitch this much quantity, you kind of want to share it, right? And just let people see the quantity. So, and I want you to understand, this is a big job from start to finish. So here I have my design wall, which is just 2 4 by 8 foot batting covered sheets of styrofoam that, I move around my sewing area as needed. And I'm adding my pieced rows 1 by 1. It's a diagonal layout. And I lay them out and then I take them back down and piece 1 by 1 until you have this giant quilt. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. But we're almost there. So it's so big, it's like hanging out on the floor, but that's okay. This just lets me see it in my mind, and I pin a piece of paper to each one so I can identify where it is in the quilt. Okay, now I'm going to pause that a minute, and maybe, how do I pause that? Let's see. And maybe I can go back just a little bit to just show you. Oh, did somebody just do that for me? Okay. So now I'm going to base the quilt because this is a really big quilt. I have to get it on my embroidery machine, and it's all 3 layers, so I'm going to baste it. So I have a dining room table that's as big as it can possibly be, and I place my backing fabric wrong side up on the table, and I I pin a pool noodle to it, and then roll that up onto the pool noodle. And then the next step is to do the same with the quilt top, but in the reverse, so that it is, instead of attached wrong side up to the pool noodle, it is right side up. And let's see what happens when I hit play. I'm not sure where we go. Okay, so now I am rolling my quilt top. Now they're both done. So now I'm just going to pause that for a minute. So the step now is to lay the quilt back on the edge of the table and, release an expansive fabric that's the same dimension as the table so that I have a nice flat area to start. And then I take my batting and align one edge of the batting with the edge of the backing fabric. And I just smooth that all, you're constantly smoothing everything. And so that's the backing and the batting. Now, the next thing that happens is we take our pool noodle that has the quilt top on it, and we lay that on top. Now, actually, I didn't take this photo in time, so let me stop that a second because I actually basted a portion of the quilt. So just kind of bear with me. But I want you to see what's happening behind, the quilt. That batting is on the floor. The backing is still on the pool noodle. And I am about to unroll the quilt top to release part of the quilt top so I can start pin basting that there. And I think the next photo shows us that.
Wow, that's really smart way of doing it. That's one of the things I've had a difficult time with is matching everything up. And that is how to do it for sure.
Right. So some tips that I'll give you is start with larger batting and larger backing than your quilt top. And by larger, I mean like really larger, like maybe 4 inches on each side, which is a lot, right? But because we're going to use the weightless quilter and the weightless quilter is going to handle that quilt for me, I don't have to worry about that excess weight, right? If you were free motion quilting, you wouldn't do that. You try to keep that as narrow as possible. But the reason that I have that excess fabric, first off, is so that I can hoop as close to the edge of the quilt that I want to. And also, just in case my quilt top does not travel absolutely parallel with the edge of my backing, I don't want to run out of backing when I get to the end of the quilt. You're just, releasing in about 2-3 foot segments. So anyway, that little bit of extra fabric is just a lifesaver. I take a ruler and I measure from the edge of the quilt top to the edge of the visible backing. Because I think in this instance, I was 4.5 inches from quilt top edge to backing fabric edge. And as I unrolled my quilt top and advanced everything, I tried to make sure that I had a consistent 4.5 inches. And then I was fine. And you also have to make sure the lengthwise, right? Because you don't want to do all this basting and everything. And then when you go to take it off the pool noodle, like that your backing is shorter than your top. Oh, imagine. Wouldn't you just cry, Sue?
I did, yes. It has happened to me.
It has happened. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And you have to pretty much start all over again.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you do. But if that does happen to you, don't fret, right? Like start over.
Stay calm, carry on.
Stay calm and carry on. Take out the pins, the safety pins, and just start over and get it right because you're not going to scrap this beautiful quilt. You went this far. Okay, so let's see what comes next. I think we're just about done. Not sure. And so just so you could see the progress, right? It's kind of a little messy. You have to really have a nice, table to do it. And a clean floor is important because part of it's going to be on the floor for sure. Oh, let's see. And Retha Ranke, she goes to her church and she uses the long tables and the pool noodles. Good for you. If you have that, I love it. Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that. Oh, I didn't mean to click off Colleen Rouse's comment because I want to give her credit. She said, did she learn this technique 20 years ago from an elderly quilter? And I'm going to tell you, 20 years ago, I was not the elderly quilter she learned that from. So I just want you to know that I didn't invent this technique, right? I learned it and I don't know where I learned it, but it's a lifesaver. So I'm always happy to share. So Colleen, whoever taught you, maybe that person taught me. Anyway, happy to share that. Okay, so let's see. Here's Robin Matheson from part of the Replay crew. Do you know the Replay crew, Sue? Is that one of your?
We have we make a big deal about the Replay crew. If you can't make it for the live, they're the Replay crew, and everybody comments and says that. So we cheer the Replay crew on.
I love that. Love the Replay crew. Right, because who can make, the 1 hour that you're scheduled to go live? Not everybody, for sure. Okay, so now the quilt's all basted, right? And it's a happy moment, right? You fold it up and then you don't have to fold it up. Depends on where you are. I brought it to the office so that I could quilt it here in the office and tape it for you. I don't do a lot of videotaping in my home studio because it's really my working studio. I like to get everything done there. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that video. I'm going to let my Gloria will run that so you can see. Okay, now I'm getting it on the Weightless Quilter, and this is just taking it right out of my car. I mean, this is the first hooping, and we've sped it up a little bit. But one thing I'm going to share with you right now, and that I want you to understand, is the first hooping is the worst hooping on a big quilt because it's in the middle. So you have so much excess on the right, so much on the left, on the top and the back. So it is kind of the worst one. Once you get that one down, you're good. I did an edge-to-edge design. I used one of Emily Scott's designs, a beautiful sweet pea design. And, I'm taking out pins that are in the quilt that are either in the sewing field or close to it. I'm removing them. I got my template on my print and stick template there. And I didn't shop the wall, so we'll have to go back and show you those products. But now, as you know, and I use the machine features of trace, where you can go just north or just south or just east and west in the hoop. And that often helps me determine if I'm square in the hoop, for sure. So we have other tools. One thing that I am going to share with you, I selected the 10 by 16 hoop. It's 10.5 by 16 snap hoop monster that is compatible with the Baby Lock Solaris and the Baby Lock Luminaire. And the reason why I did that, Sue, is because it's the biggest hoop, right?
It makes such a difference.
It does.
I absolutely love it. That is what I use that hoop for, is quilting in the hoop.
Well, I will tell you, it's a big hoop to handle.
It's a big hoop.
It is. And I almost wished I had used the 9.5 by 14 because it's a little bit more manageable. Yes, it would have been more hoopings. If there's going to be 36 hoopings on this quilt, I believe, or close to it. And maybe that would have added another 6, maybe even another 12. But it might have been worth it because, it's a big job. I'm going to rehoop all those times. And the quilt, I weighed the quilt, and the quilt weighs 6 pounds, 5.9. Yeah. So It's a heavy quilt. It's a lot of quilt. And I know I'm going to move it, right? Never could have done this without a weightless quilter. There's no way. Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and watch. So, like I said, the first one's the hardest. Now I'm ready, finally ready. A million touches. Get my chair. Whew.
Now you can take a break.
Yeah.
While it's stitching.
Yeah. I should have had a cup of tea.
Definitely.
Right. And this design, now that's another thing, because it's such a big hoop, and this is a beautiful kind of floral design on a vine. So it takes 5 minutes to stitch each hooping, which doesn't sound like a lot. And it is not a lot, 5 minutes, right? It's just running stitches. But 5 minutes times 36, it does add up. So a smaller design will stitch quicker. And that just means you get to the rehooping faster. That's all that means. Because I was kind of surprised. So many quilting designs that I do are 3 minutes. But this has more detail, so it's going to take more time. Okay, so now I'm going to advance the quilt. And, I'm using, I wanted to use Christine Connor's slide, where you grasp the top frame and you slide the quilt, advancing the fabric. But frankly, it was too heavy for me to do that. like, and to keep, I mean, yes, I can lift 6 pounds, but to keep it all centered and aligned and so forth, it didn't want to work so well. That works better on lighter weights, maybe smaller. Yeah. So it's fun though, isn't it? And there it goes.
That looks amazing. And I love to see how the weightless quilter is moving with it and keeping everything up. So, because that is one of my nightmares, is having something get caught underneath.
Right.
Oh,
I know.
man.
It's yes. Well, that is scary. We don't want that to happen.
No.
Yeah. So we could take a look at it's half. You're not going to see me quilt this whole thing, not in this video. I am halfway through. So I have the quilt on the overhead cam, and I'll show you that in a minute. And so I have quilted one entire half. And now it's time for me, you know, after today's live, to flip the quilt, rotate it so that the unquilted portion is then under the needle. I will also rotate my design, not mirror image it, but just rotate it and carry on in that fashion. So it's a lot, right, Sue?
It is, but it's gorgeous. Wow.
Yeah. Let's take a look underneath. So, I mean, it's a lot of white, but you could see all that texture that's been added, right? And I chose a white thread because the sweetheart that my niece that I'm making this quilt for, she chose the fabrics, and I wanted the fabrics to be the star. She wanted a real traditional style quilt, and she picked every fabric. And so I didn't want to, you know, choose a colorful thread that would interfere with those fabrics. And of course, I used my print and stick Target template paper to print my templates. It's a big design, so I needed 2. And I just, you know, I overlap them, and then they'll just stick together. And then on the protective paper sheets, I tape them together in the back so that it just stays together as one nice big sheet, and I can reuse this. So yeah, I did an A and a B like Christine Connor. That's what that's her technique. She uses an A and a B. So that it's not the same exact design in every column. But yeah, it's working out really well. And then I'll use this on the other half and get that completed. But I want to show you the weightless quilter. So I'm going to go over to Shop the Wall and show you the weightless quilter and the box that it comes in. So it comes in a box that is, you know, it's about 3 inches in diameter this way and 6 that way. And I think 5 feet tall, right? I'm about 5'3". So, and it's lightweight. It's really lightweight. I can lift it up. And if you keep the box, you can store the parts in it if you'd like. I store mine in a tall basket in the corner with the pool noodles that I use all the time. And in fact, I put the poles of the weightless quilter inside the pool noodles to keep them straight, because pool noodles always want to curve and bend, right? So it's nice if they're nice and strong. The other product that I used was most certainly a snap hoop monster. Can't do anything without a snap hoop monster. And then here's my pack of print and stick Target template paper. And I only needed 4 sheets for those 2 big designs. And those 4 sheets are going to get me through that whole quilt, all, you know, 90 by 90 inches, which is awesome. Okay, so we actually have the weightless quilter, a mini version that I want to show you. So just bear with me a minute. Sue, maybe you'll entertain the troops.
Sure. I think if you are quilting on your embroidery machine, you can do smaller and bigger. You do have to make sure when you're using the bigger hoops that you have enough room. I have done that a couple times. I don't realize how far back it's going to go when it's stitching on the bottom. So that's the first thing. Make sure you have enough room in both directions. And using the snap hoop monster is amazing. It makes all the difference. And I'm sorry, my dogs are barking again.
What's your dog's name, Sue?
Hank is the one. He's a rescue dog, and he's barking. I'm sorry. There's no one here to watch him. So.
That's okay. We're happy you're here. Okay, I have all my parts. So the weightless quilter, now these are mini parts. So you understand, like this is mini and the floor bars are just pieces of wood that I cut short so that I could fit it under the camera. But you're going to get 4 corner brackets. And I want you to notice that they have a opening on the side and then also on the end. So it's kind of like the letter T. And then it has 2 sockets for poles to be inserted in there. And they're at an odd angle, right? They don't go straight up. And you're going to have 4 of them. You're going to have fabric clamps that are easy to maneuver. I can put my fingers in that opening and my thumb or palm and open up the clamp. You get little rubber fingers that cover the orange pads that are under there so that it's just a soft but firm grip on your fabric. We don't want any rigid plastic holding onto our beautiful quilted piece. You're going to get 8 poles. So 4 are thin. They have a thinner diameter than the other 4 larger diameter. The thin diameter ones are more flexible and the thicker ones are stiffer. And they are used to hold a really heavy quilt. And in fact, on my queen size quilt that weighed 6 pounds, I used a combination. I used the thick poles behind the machine. And sometimes, depending on where I was in the quilt, I used the thinner pole in the front panel, on the front corner, in front of the machine. So you might find it interesting. Now you do get 4 floor bars. And remember, these are just representative. Yours will be 32 inches in length and they are made out of metal. But you get 4 in case you have a multi-needle machine or if you have a sit-down long arm and you want to use the weightless quilter to free motion or, you do it for ruler work. But with an embroidery machine, you really are only going to use 3 corner brackets. So let's move one out of the way and I'll set it up. And I only use 2 of the floor bars. So I'm going to have 1 floor bar here and this one in the front. And now I want you to envision that the machine is here. So let me clear this space out of the way so you can understand that. And then on this back bar, this is behind the machine, I have my other floor bracket. And they are applied with these sockets facing away from the machine. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that pole in there and the other one here. So you can see they are extending away from the machine because we don't want it to poke the machine, right? And then in the front, let's see, we'll turn it this way maybe so you can get to see all the brackets. That's probably a little better. And then here's our front, and our machine would be right here, and you would be sitting here. So here's your front panel right here. Okay, now let's go. I'm going to go turn on the machine because we have something over there on the machine. So you can actually see this in action. So we'll wake it up and we'll just let it go. Now we put a sheer fabric on the weightless quilter so you could really see it in motion. You can see like through the fabric and you can see the poles. See how they move? Right now they're just kind of, holding up the fabric, right? But as that hoop advances north and south, east and west, you can really see movement on the poles. And, this is a lightweight piece of fabric. The same occurred on that heavy queen size quilt. It's like having a friend in your sewing room who just stands there the whole time and watches and holds the quilt. Look at it. I love that. Look how it moves. Oh my goodness. I just love that. I smile every time I see that. Isn't that cool, Sue?
I love it. And I would like to say it only takes me about 5 minutes to set up my weightless quilter.
Yeah.
The first time might take you a few minutes more, but once you get the hang of it, it's up and down super fast.
Right. Right. It really is. And it's intuitive. So as you travel around the quilt, you are also, just as you rehoop and advance the fabric in the hooping area, you're also going to readjust the fabric in the fabric clamps, right? So it's not like you just put all 4 corners or 3 corners of the quilt in the weightless quilter and walk away. It's not like that.
No.
It's just as if your friend was there and you would say, oh, could you move over a little bit? Oh, would you move over this way? Right?
That's
It's
a
so cool.
great analogy, because that's exactly what it is. And you just press the little clamps,
Yeah.
move it so it's in
Yeah.
the right spot. You don't want the poles
Right.
bending right over.
Yeah.
But it's really not hard to figure out. So you just do a couple of adjustments, 5 minutes
Yeah.
stitching, and it's good.
Right. Yeah. So Kathy Purdy, she just popped in. She said, "Does it move this effortlessly on a quilt sandwich?" It sure does, and we'll play a part of that video again so you can see it, because the quilt that we're discussing today is a 6-pound quilt. It's 90 by 90 queen size quilt. So, yeah. Okay. Will the weightless quilter work on a stand-up embroidery machine like the Janome MB7? Good question. So let me share with you different ways to set up the weightless quilter. Okay, why don't we do that now? And that'll just stitch. We'll just let it stitch. Okay, so excuse me. Here is exactly how I have it set up right now around my machine. I have the floor bar on the left of the machine, kind of sitting outside the table, right? And the floor bar, obviously, in the back is behind the machine and behind the table. And I'm on a small table. It's only about 28 inches in depth and about 42 inches in width. So it's not very large at all. So in the next slide, we have a large table. Like if Retha Ranke earlier, she said she goes to her church to use the pool-based method and on a long table that they have in the church. Well, if you're sewing over there too, then you would put that floor bar underneath the table, maybe inside its frame, its legs. And the reason why we do that, so we really want the weightless quilter to kind of surround the machine, not so much the table, right? It's better to have it, a little close to the machine. So in the next image, now we have one that is, I'm just giving you the dimension of that floor bar, because some people have furniture that goes almost to the floor. Maybe they have a caster there and they need to know how much clearance they have from floor to top of table. Well, you just need 3/4 of an inch in order for your floor bar to slide underneath that piece of sewing furniture so that you can slide it onto the corner bracket on each side. And then if it is one that goes right to the floor, then you would put the weightless quilter outside of your table. That's all, just, in the back and on the left. That's all you have to do. Okay, next up is, I'm pretty sure, I want to show you first hooping. Yeah, so this is like, you can do a combination of skinny poles, tall, short. They come in different heights. You'll get too tall. I think you get 3 tall of both diameters. So you get 6 tall and 2 short. But you should cut them to the desire that you want. And you'll know that the first time you use it. So when you attach it, put the frame together and you're stitching the quilt, you'll know by your own furniture. Some people do standing. They have their sewing machine, embroidery machine at counter height. Some have it at desk height. So that's why you get these different lengths. So anyway, okay, then I think I have a multi-needle image. Yes, here we go. So this is how you set it up for a multi-needle. Now, this is when you definitely need your 4 floor bars and your 4 corner brackets. But notice that those floor bars aren't connected in the back. They don't need to be connected. They're going to balance and stand up just fine without a 3rd corner bracket or a third floor bar. You're just going to kind of have them overlap behind the machine, and that's how you will work your quilt. And you'll work it from the back of the, like the throat of the quilt, and you'll work to the center, or, you know, you'll start in the center and go to that one side, and then you'll rotate that whole quilt, just like we do. Yeah, let's see. Okay. So Kelly Davis, I hope that answered your question. She was the one who wanted to know about the Janome MB7. Laurie Albrecht, you did a king size quilt. It is a game changer. Absolutely. Absolutely. Carol Browser, you use a desk sewing table. Right. So that's the common height that many people sew on, but lots of people do counter height. You know, they do all different things. So we try to accommodate everybody. Kelly Davis, you said, yes, good. I'm glad that answered your question for sure. So, isn't that a lot of fun, Sue?
It really is. One thing I'd like to point out, seeing everybody knows I have dogs, the Weightless Quilter keeps it off the floor.
Yes.
So nobody is stepping on it when you're not looking and messing everything up. And to me, that just makes it, you know, worry-free.
Right.
I love it.
And so sometimes, you know, my quilt was white. There's a lot of white in that quilt. I definitely don't want that to touch the floor, especially here in the office. At home, it might be okay, but in the office, not so much. And if you're working, you know, if you're, some people do bridal wear. I mean, it's fabulous for any kind of delicate fabric that you want to keep up off the ground, or, you know, just support its weight. It doesn't have to be a quilt. We use it for, oh my goodness, so many different things. We're just always tickled when we go, oh, we'll just grab the Weightless Quilter because everything's falling out. And the only way you can quilt with your embroidery machine and a snap hoop monster is if you maintain the weight of the quilt. If you let that quilt, that queen size quilt, fall off that table, and I start, you know, press go, that quilt top frame is going to separate from the bottom. Absolutely. Because my embroidery machine was not designed to accommodate a queen size quilt. That's what a long arm is for. So it does, the design of the machine doesn't allow for, you know, that weight and that bulk to be held in any hoop. So if you're having trouble with, you know, your monster hoops, most likely it's because your quilt is dragging the top. You got to maintain it. You got to get up above. That's why we make the Weightless Quilter for big projects and the tabletop Weightless Quilter for smaller projects. So
you really don't want to break your machine over, you know, quilting it. If you do it properly, it's easy and fun.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Yeah, it really is. So, okay, I think we've kind of answered a lot of questions. Or my friend Dawn Chase says that up in Virginia, says she hasn't not thought about using it for a wedding dress embroidery. She has a couple daughters. I don't know if they're married, but maybe there's a wedding dress in her future sewing. We never know, right? And then here we have Jackie, who is just received her tabletop Weightless Quilter. It's going to set it up next week. Do it. You're going to love it. It's a game changer. You're not going to believe. Oh, Sue, how many different things do you do with your tabletop Weightless Quilter?
Just about anything that I want up from the machine. I actually, okay, well, I did put googly eyes on it, but I leave it by my machine because it's so handy. So if I'm doing a wall hanging, I hook it up into that, and it just makes it easier.
Right.
So I do use it all the time.
Yeah. Sure. And, you know, when I was piecing that quilt, and I had to have those 4 corner 2.5-inch squares in the right pattern going around the block, right? You have to make sure you seam them in the right order. And so I hung a sample from my tabletop Weightless Quilter right by my machine, so I could just glance at it. And so I didn't have to get up and check a pattern or something like that. It was really great. So Janine Smith.
Sorry. I also use it when I'm done for the day, but not done the quilt. I put it up on it, and it just keeps it neat and tidy and, you know, nice. Yeah, so I do use it for that too. So it's always up.
Yeah, it's always up. Good. Okay, so let's see. Here we have Janine Smith. Are we using top and bottom magnetic frames? Well, Janine Smith, a Snap Hoop Monster by Dime is a flat metal bottom. and a magnetic top, flat also. They're both flat, and they're nice and strong. They're recognized by your machine, and they come in a lot of sizes for sure. So you can check that out on our website. And next up, we have, what do we have? There's so much to talk about here. Well, of course, it's on sale, right?
Grab it while you can, for sure. Worth it.
So we've discounted it $100 with free shipping and on U.S. orders. So we hope that you'll take advantage of that. And it is, all of March, our Snap Hoop Monsters were on sale. They're still on sale. You're just about to end that. We are just about to end that sale on March 31st. So if you had your eye on a hoop and you've been thinking about the Weightless Quilter, you could do all of that with free shipping right now. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Linda Johnston, she says she calls hers the Snap Hoop Angel instead of Monster. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that.
It's so true. One of my favorite things about the Snap Hoop Monster is the machine recognizes it.
Yes.
I think that's really convenient. It's exactly the same as putting in your original hoops, except for half the work.
Oh, yeah. There's no guesswork, and you don't have to trick the machine or anything like that. So
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay, so we have, it's that time where we're going to, you're here, Sue, because of the big reveal of the project for this month. So I guess we'll go ahead and talk about how people can stay connected with us. And our next Software Success with Ashley Jones is on April 2nd, and she's talking about getting started with Perfect Stitch Viewer. So if you're not familiar with that, you might want to check that out. She does a great job. She's been one very busy lady lately, and I hope that she gets to exhale a little bit, but she'll be here next Tuesday doing that. And she's just an a computer wizard, a software wizard, right, Sue?
She is amazing to watch. The whole video goes by in like 2 seconds, and then you realize how much you learned.
Yeah, how much you learned, right?
Yeah, which is amazing. So I watch her.
Yeah, I do too. And that's why being part of the playback crew is so important, because when she's going, or any of us are teaching, you can always, it's great to just, wait, what did she say? And zoom, go back and repeat it. Go back and repeat it. Right?
And that's why we love the replay crew so much. You can take your time and learn what you need to learn.
Right. Okay, so we would hope that you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. That tells us that you like what we're doing, so that we can give you more educational content every week. And do the same for OML Embroidery, my good friend Sue Brown. Rising tide lifts all boats. Oh, and here you are. So this is all messed up. Pardon me. Sorry about that. I have the wrong dates there, so we'll just skip over that. But the on the house, and I'm just going to, Sue, take over for just a minute. I got a machine issue going on here.
It's like it. So every Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, so a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a sew-along. But it's also not just a sew-along, it's a learn-along. So I did one video on zipper placement, my tips and tricks on how to do zippers properly for zipper bags. And it was really good. Last week I did a video on tension, because I was having a tension problem with my machine, and I went over the troubleshooting for it. And it turns out that I wasn't using a dime bobbin. I was using one that I got off of Amazon. And that was the problem, because it had fuzzies everywhere. So I cleaned it out, put in my dime bobbin, problem solved.
Yay.
So, yeah.
Love hearing that. That's great. You never know, right? You just never know.
So you never know. And it makes for a great video. And people are like, wow, okay. The important thing is not to panic. Step by step, right? And we figured it out. Now my machine's working delightfully.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a happy machine for sure. Okay, so Let's see. We love it when you share your projects with us, and please do so by using hashtag Dime Sew Along, hashtag On the House, or hashtag Exquisite Thread, and we'll find it. And then we can put your project into this reel. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what you've been stitching. Oh, aren't they so cute? And here is this month's project. So it's a little needle book.
Ooh.
And yeah, you're going to do it all in the hoop. Now it is a large design, so it's going to fit 8x8 hoops. And I think you'll find it really easy to do. So let's take a look at the steps, Sue, okay? Here's the design. So it has 4 different appliques in it, which might look like 5 right now, but that lower right-hand corner is actually 1 applique with an opening in the middle. So let's take a look. It comes with a PDF of the applique shapes that you'll cut out. And I used felt because I like that E-stitch outline for little projects like this that we did in the heart, remember, at Valentine's Day? I just think it's just a sweet touch. So you'll cut out these shapes and then mark those shapes. Don't lose them. You don't want to confuse the needle pad and the front cover appliques, right? They're different sizes, but they're pretty close together. So anyway, now I'm just going to walk you through that, the needle pad. All right. So you stitch the first color of the tack down of that segment. And it is just a, kind of like whatever shape that is, right? And it's just an outline. And then you're going to place one edge of that needle pad applique section on top of that applique, on that stitch placement guide, and then it'll stitch the E-stitch just over where the placement guide was. And this is where the machine will stop. So at that point, you will lift that applique fabric and lift it away from the needle so that the needle can then place the next placement guide, which is the other end of the needle pad. And you just keep your hand back there, keep it out of the needle area, and then place it back into position. And you'll put the fabric so that the edge of the fabric is aligned with that placement guide. And you're going to have that kind of bump in the middle of the fabric. And that bump is going to give you a little space to slide your pins and your needles in. If it was flat, it wouldn't work so well. So that's the idea of that. And then you'll stitch that E-stitch, and that part's done. And then you'll just move on to the other applique shapes. And then right towards the end, and there, of course, there's a PDF instructions with all these steps clearly explained, but there's a placement guide for the ribbon on both sides of the needle book because you need 2 so that you can tie it closed. And you'll stitch that placement guide, and then you'll center a narrow ribbon over that placement guide, tape it outside of, to the right and to the left, outside of the needle book. And you'll do that on both sides. And then you'll put your ribbon ends inside the needle case, right? We don't want the long ends of the ribbon ties extending into the seam allowance because you're going to cover your work with a backing fabric that is, larger than the sewing field. And you'll just place that right sides together and stitch the next segment, which is just a running stitch. And then you're going to press it, take it out of the hoop, trim it 1/4 inch, and then turn it right side out. And then when you fold it in half and in half again and top stitch it, and there's your little needle book. Isn't that cute?
Wow, that is fantastic. I can't wait to learn that technique.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Right,
I think everyone's going to love that.
Yeah. And so the little ruler is, 3 inches, and that's stitched on the applique. I didn't have that in that image, but it is part of the design. And, there's the pretty part on the front. There's also a pretty part on the back, which you saw earlier in of these slides. But this design cannot really be resized, because if you were to do, like, we have someone asking, can it fit in a 6x10 hoop? Well, then your book would only be about 3.5 inches wide. I don't believe it could be. If you have software skills, you could split it in half and do one half and then the other half and rehoop and all of that. So how do you get this design? Well, you go over to dzgns.com, just like it says right up here behind me, and you go to embroidery designs, free designs, and you'll find it there. So, and it's, free for you. And you remember, you can download, we do this every week. There's a free design, and then the last Thursday of the month is a project, and they'll be up all year. So we encourage you to take advantage of them and download them every week as they become available. So, well,
we put a link to the project in the OML Embroidery University Facebook group to make it easy for everyone to find it. Just
great.
Yep.
Good. And then some of our friends, Joyce is asking, is it 10 a.m. Eastern or Central Time with you, OML Embroidery, on Saturday?
Eastern.
Eastern
Standard Time. Yep.
Eastern. Yeah.
And every Saturday, we do something fun every Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time.
Wow. You are committed, Sue Brown, I'll tell you. It's wonderful.
It's been like 5 years that I do every Saturday. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, isn't that great? That's great. Well, I really want to thank you for joining me today. It's been fun having you here and your puppy. It's always good to have an animal in the house, right?
Animal or 3, yes. It wasn't too bad. No. I usually have someone watching them, but rescue dogs are wonderful creatures, so I don't get mad.
That's good. That's all great. Well, thank you, everyone. Sue will be back here
for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And I look forward to having you back at the end of April, that last Thursday.
Yes, thank you. I'm always excited for it. Best time of the month is a new project, especially with a new technique. That is going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. And happy Easter, everyone. So thank you for joining me. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.